Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
This is a catastrophe.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's what I wished for when I blew out my candle.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
The floor is yours.
Hour 2, Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, built by Renaissance.com. That's where you can go to check out my friends at Renaissance Homes and Pools. Get in the pool of your dreams, outdoor kitchen you've always wanted, built by Renaissance.com. JD Pickell will be with us in 15 minutes. We'll talk about the college football playoff upcoming this weekend. It'll start on Friday night between Oklahoma and Alabama from Norman. But I want to talk about LSU. We got word today that Colin Hurley and Carius Curran plan to enter the transfer portal. There's been a steady outflow of Tigers toward the portal, and I'm going to talk about 5 guys that I would really, really, really like to see back on LSU's team. And these decisions aren't all portal or LSU. There is NFL draft implication in this as well. But as you look to try to build the next team, I think there are some guys that were on this past team that could certainly play a huge role in next year's club. And the decisions are not always the same, and they're not nearly the same as they were 10, 12 years ago. 10 or 12 years ago, your only chance to cash a check was to make an NFL roster. And if you left LSU and went to the NFL and didn't make a team, like, you were out of money either way. Staying at LSU, you got nothing, and you got nothing if you go to the NFL. Now, there was no way 15 years ago to make more money in college than you would taking your chances at the pros. That chance now exists. So we'll talk a little bit about that with the first 2 guys on this list that I would love to see back on this LSU team. And this is not in a specific order, like 1 through 5. It's just 5 guys, and I've got them written in this order, so I'll do them in this order. Braylon Moore is first. Braylon Moore would be a huge piece to bring back to LSU at center. You are going to have to overhaul this offensive line. The offensive line was nowhere near good enough. It was nowhere near healthy enough. I don't know if it was or was not talented enough. I do know that it did not perform well enough. And Braylon Moore was kind of the exception to that. Braylon Moore at center held his own, was a veteran presence in the middle of your offensive line that could protect the passer and did a little bit of moving people in the running game. Was he an All-American? No. Was he the best LSU had on the offensive front? Yes. So I would like it if he came back. I could see a situation where the 5 guys who started against Oklahoma, none of the 5 start against Clemson next year. Like, that's reasonable to suggest. I don't know if it's likely because, guys could return, and maybe Cohen Eccles plays, and maybe Weston Davis plays, but I don't know. But Braylon Moore would be a guy that I would like to get back on this team in the middle of the offensive line and try to fill in the pieces around him. That's number 1. Number 2 is a bigger name, and it's now a weird connection. It's Whit Weeks. Whit Weeks was second in the SEC in tackles last year. Whit Weeks is an all-conference, all-American level linebacker. And I think if he went to the NFL draft this year after his 3rd year of college, that he would be drafted. I don't know where. He's not the biggest. He's not the fastest. He's got production from his sophomore season, but nothing but real injuries from his junior season. He would be a guy who could come back and be the middle of Blake Baker's defense. And one thing I know for sure about Whit Weeks is that he and Blake Baker have a phenomenal relationship. Those 2 guys have really hit it off being together the last 2 years, and they really, really do work well together. And if Whit Weeks were to come back, he would be the captain of the defense. He would be the middle of the defense. He would make the calls. He would create stability on what was a good LSU defense in 2025 that moves into 2026. And I would like to see him be a part of that. Now, the question is, does he want to come back? His older brother, West, will be gone. He's buds with Nussmeier. He's gone. A lot of the guys that he spent a lot of time with on this defense, Jacobian Guillory, Harold Perkins, A.J. Halsey, those guys will be gone. Jack Pyburn will be gone. Patrick Payton will be gone. Most of LSU's defense from this past year will be gone. And sometimes that's something we don't necessarily think a lot about when it comes to playing with your guys and when it's time, like, I don't really recognize anybody in this locker room. Might be time to roll. Like, that does play a role in some guys' thought. It plays no role in some guys' thoughts as well. But it's something to consider here. Clearly, his girlfriend's dad's now the head coach. He was talking to Gordon McKernan on that podcast earlier about how, like, he's gotten to know Lane pretty well dating Landry. And that's just my girlfriend's dad. And you've all, like, a lot of guys, even girls, if you flip it around, like, you've known your significant other's dad when you were in high school or college. And that's kind of an awkward relationship, but it is what it is. They make movies about it. Now, could be the head coach. But maybe that means Landry is in Baton Rouge, and maybe it's a little bit of a different situation for him. Like, who knows? But that's something that I got to bring up when I'm talking about Whit Weeks, because it's something that maybe factoring in. Financially, I'm sure he could get a pretty sizable chunk of revenue sharing and NIL deals aplenty if he came. And there's no guarantee of financial security in the NFL if you were to go. It's a question of how does he feel about it. But he would be a big addition to LSU if he came back. If we stay on the defensive side here, DJ Pickett is clearly the answer here from the younger players. 6'5" corners don't grow on trees. Neither does the national defensive true freshman of the year, according to 1-3. Now, I think you got a really good chance to get DJ Pickett back because you got Corey Raymond. And DJ Pickett came to LSU to play for Corey Raymond. And DJ Pickett is not disgruntled. He started as a freshman and played really well as a freshman. Corey Raymond will be back. I think DJ Pickett will be back. And that becomes your number one corner. Mansour Delane moves on. I think right now, as you sit here, it's very likely that DJ Pickett and PJ Woodland are your 1 and 2 corner. That's a good place to start on the outside for Corey Raymond's unit. But clearly, if you're looking at guys on this roster with options, that's a guy you would really like to have back on your defense, because we know how important having that number one corner is. It changes the way you play defense. It changes the way your defensive coordinator can call pressures, because you know you got a guy out there that can cover. DJ Pickett can do it. He can also make plays on the ball. He had a great freshman season. So Mansour Delane, Whit Weeks, DJ Pickett, my first 3 guys on this list of 5 guys that I think LSU really, really would love to get back. The next one I feel really good about him being back. Same way as DJ Pickett. It's Trey'Dez Green. Trey'Dez Green just had a sophomore season that didn't blow you away statistically. But if you turn on the highlights and you watch him in the red zone and you realize how bad LSU's offense was and that he was really the only consistent playmaker outside of maybe Xavion Thomas, plus he's not replaceable in terms of that skill set. That skill set is not replaceable. If LSU loses a 6'3", well, I don't mean this is to disparage Ahmad Bro at all. Ahmad Bro needs to do what's best for him. But, like, you can find another guy that looks and plays like Ahmad Bro pretty quickly. You can find another guy that looks and plays like one of your wide receivers pretty quickly. You cannot find a guy who looks and plays like Trey'Dez Green almost anywhere. 6'7", basketball player, long arms, freakish hops. You just can't find that in just anywhere. And when I think about Trey'Dez Green in Lane Kiffin's offense, now you start cooking. Because that is a toy that Lane Kiffin has not had in spades that, you would hear. Because there just aren't a lot of defensive players that can match up with Trey'Dez Green. And Lane Kiffin is a genius when it comes to creating matchups and space. And Trey'Dez Green needs that in a big way. So he's my 4th guy on this list. And the last one is one that's been talked about a lot over the last 24 hours. Harlem Berry. I just really liked what I saw from him in terms of his vision, in terms of his burst, in terms of his balance. I just think he had a lot of tools. He was always going to be skinny as a freshman, and he was. And LSU's offensive front and offensive scheme did not allow for any running back to get going. But I like the highlights that I saw from Harlem Berry, and I would like to see him in an offense that creates space and creates downhill rushing lanes. Now, we know that he's got a very, very, very close relationship with Frank Wilson. It predates him being born with his family. Frank Wilson's known Harlem's family since before Harlem was born. And Harlem Berry came to LSU to play running back for running backs coach Frank Wilson. So would it stun me if Harlem Berry ended up in Oxford? It would not. Would it stun me if Harlem Berry stayed at LSU? It would not. Would it stun me if Kejuan Lacey, Harlem Berry, and Caden Durham were on next year's LSU roster? It would. That would stun me. I'm not saying it's an impossibility. I would say it would stun me. And I would think Kejuan Lacey was far and away the best of those three this year. Far and away. Part of that's ability. Part of that is scheme. And Lane Kiffin's scheme's now in Baton Rouge. And Lacey is a proven commodity in that offense. And certainly, if you're an LSU fan, you would love to have him down in Baton Rouge. But I like what Harlem Berry shows. I like his versatility. I like all the attributes. And I would really like him to be part of LSU's offense for the next couple of years, especially when you consider the success that Lane Kiffin has creating space for running backs. So that's a guy I just would love to have back if you could do it. Does he just want to play at LSU, near home in New Orleans? Just want to play for Frank? Who knows? I don't know. But those are my 5 guys that I would really like to see LSU bring back. Braylon Moore, got a draft decision to make. Whit Weeks, got a draft decision to make. DJ Pickett, Trades Green, Harlem Berry, those guys can't go to the NFL. They're here. Trades Green, DJ Pickett, they have those NIL deals with Nike, and Harlem Berry would be in line to do some really great things here. But we'll see which of those 5, if any, are back, or maybe all 5 are back. That's what the next 3 weeks are for. And we'll just have to sit back and wait and watch how this roster unfolds here in Baton Rouge. All right, chugging along here on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. J.D. Pickell, host of the Hard Count on 3. We'll talk playoffs next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Fabry Chevrolet GMC. Want a Chevy? Go to Highway 61 in St. Francisville. If you're thinking, I've seen that dealership on 61 in St. Francisville, but I didn't think that was a Fabry. It has not been until October the 1st. Been in business going on 3 months now, and things have been fantastic. You know the Fabry family name. They've been here 35 years. You know the customer service that comes with that. You know the quality of the relationship that family has with this community. All you got to do if you want a Chevy or a GMC is head up to Highway 61 in St. Francisville. You can start your buying process online at FabryChevrolet.com. That's F-A-B-R-E, FabryChevrolet.com. The whole inventory is online there. So if you're looking for new or pre-owned Tahoes, new or pre-owned Silverados on the Chevy side, they got them. Looking for Sierras, Yukons, Denali's, they got those on the GMC side as well. And if you're looking for service on your vehicle and you're up in St. Francisville, they service all makes in their service department. It doesn't have to be a Chevrolet or a GMC. So go by and see them. Highway 61 in St. Francisville. It's Fabry Chevrolet GMC. You can find them online at FabryChevrolet.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Wednesday shows brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools, built by Renaissance.com, built by Renaissance.com. Time now, get into some college football playoff talk. We do it with our guy, J.D. Pickell from On 3, host of the Hard Count with us on Wednesdays. Joins us on the Gems Firearms Hotline. J.D., how we doing?
Doing well, brother. Doing well. It's game week, man. We're here for it. It's going to be a good time, man. I'm excited to be on with you.
Can we talk about the schedule briefly? I love Bama and Oklahoma in primetime on Friday night. I'm not wild about A&M and Miami at 11 o'clock in the morning, and then I've got the 2 G5 teams in the late slots. Now, I know the NFL is late, but I feel like I'm getting the entree and then the appetizers.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird. I won't lie to you. I think if I'm an A&M fan, I'm like, what the heck? Why do we have an 11 a.m. kick for our first ever playoff game? Give me Aggie yell into the next deal and then the next day. I hear all that. I think it would resonate more with me if I was like going to one of these games and I was a fan of a specific team that was making the trip out or that was spending money to be at a game. I hear all that, but I mean, at the same time, like Hunt, you and I were watching all these probably. I would venture to say. So I don't have the biggest qualm, but I'm not so sure too. One of these G5 teams doesn't make it a little bit entertaining. In our preview show a week ago, I picked both the heavy favorites over the G5s to win and cover. But the longer I sit with it, man, I don't know that we don't get some John Summerall magic and make it like irritatingly close for the good folks out there in Oxford. But regardless, I'm with you. If I could divvy it up differently, I'd probably change the way that these primetime slots are arranged.
Well, let's go to Tulane and Ole Miss, and you say that maybe a little Summerall magic. What gives you the indication that it's going to be different than it was the first time?
Just because they played one time already, too, and there's no Kiffin. Like, it just doesn't all kind of line up for it to be weird with no Kiffin. It's a massive game for Ole Miss in the sense they get them at home in Oxford, and it should be all the vibes. If we beat them last time by 35 and all these things, and then John Summerall with an inspired house money gambling Tulane. I'm really curious to see how Ole Miss handles any wrinkles Tulane throws out there, because I keep going back to this. Both these G5 teams have a quarterback that can run it, which will mean schematically they get an extra blocker in those design quarterback runs. And I think in a game like this, too, all you're looking at if you're Tulane is, can we find just one matchup that's our edge? Can we find one thing to just spam that we feel good enough about that we can find a way to win the game with? And maybe for Tulane, that's Jake Rett's last leg. So I don't know. So I still think Ole Miss wins. I wouldn't be shocked at all, though, if we got Tulane with some coverage there and made this thing a little bit entertaining for all of us that are tuned in.
Let's talk on Friday night. Bama at Oklahoma in Norman. These two teams, another rematch as the Tulane and Ole Miss game is. What do you see here between Alabama and Oklahoma that could be different than the game in Tuscaloosa?
I mean, I think we'd all be pretty surprised if Bama turned it over 3 times, wouldn't we? I mean, especially Ty Simpson getting got by the same DC in the context of the same season. Also, Hunt, not that this is everything, not that correlation is causation or history is like the only teacher, but Kalen DeBoer, over the course of his career as an FBS head coach, has lost back-to-back games in the same season twice. And one of those was during COVID. The other was his first year at Washington. So the point of all that being, I don't think Kalen DeBoer really gets got more than once in the same season all that often, especially not back-to-back. I keep going back to this too, Hunt. Like, we've seen Bama back into a corner this year a couple of times, whether it be the Florida State loss, whether it be the Oklahoma loss the first time. And, like, both times we've seen Bama be able to respond, circle the wagon, kind of fix some things. So I'm banking on that being the difference. I don't think we see Ty Simpson have that many turnovers again. And if that's the version of Bama I'm getting, where they don't give the game away, I think Bama finds a way to get it done on the road.
You think they can run the ball?
I think they can run the ball enough. I don't think they'll have this 100-yard performance, but I think last time they played, something that kind of got lost in the sauce of the Ty Simpson turnover fiasco was Daniel Hill quietly averaged 4 yards a carry. It wasn't like they had enough to lean on there, but I think if the game goes in such a way where they can commit to the run game a little bit more, I think they found something with him being able to run the ball. So, no, it's not a great day at the office running the ball, but I think it's enough to mellow out the Oklahoma defense, and you see Ty Simpson have more success because of it downfield.
What's Tuscaloosa going to be like if they don't win this game in Norman and he's lost 8 games in 2 years?
Oh, my gosh, Hunt, I don't know. The best answer is I don't know. We just did a segment on our show, the playoff pressure rankings. Kalen DeBoer is number 1, and right behind him is Ryan Day at number 2. But, like, it's a place that's, I mean, like you just said, the vibes are already not great. The vibes are already kind of weird around Kalen DeBoer, and the poor guy's already been, all he did last year was win 9 games. And, there's 2 unsavory losses in there. So not to, give you the full, historical rerun of this whole thing with the Vandy and the Oklahoma loss, but there's bad vibes. And so if Bama doesn't win a national title this year, and take a step further, they lose in the first round, like, there's going to be some uncomfortable conversation around what that football program is right now. And I think the only thing Kalen DeBoer did wrong was follow Nick Saban. To be honest, if he's not following Nick Saban and all those national championship trophies, like, is a playoff berth your second year at a place not a understandable and acceptable thing? So to put it simply, it'll be toxic if they lose for the second time to the same team in the same season.
Are you 100% sure he's not coaching Michigan next year?
I'm not 100% sure of most things, Hunt, to be honest with you. Okay. I usually get to 80%, and I say I'll call it good. I will say this: I'm 100% sure Michigan would take him tomorrow. I am call it 80% sure that Kalen DeBoer does not have a desire to leave Alabama. But to your point, if things get really weird and if they lose to Oklahoma and everyone has horrific things to say about him as the head coach there, do you want to stick around? Here's my thing. I don't know that you run towards the most high-pressure situation in college football following Nick Saban and then 2 years in leave because the pressure's too great.
I get it. We'll finish with A&M and Miami, so let's go to James Madison in Oregon. You mentioned the running quarterback for the Dukes. Anything else that would indicate that they could stick with Oregon for 4 quarters?
Their social media team has been awesome.
Good.
Whoever's doing the social stuff has been great. But outside of that, no. Like even go back to the Sun Belt title game. Like JMU kind of went back and forth there with Troy. Like it wasn't like a definitive win over Troy. So if you're playing with your food against Troy, I don't love your odds against Oregon. And I think I'd even feel differently too if Oregon's playoff game a year ago didn't go the way that it went, where they got embarrassed and Dan Lanning doesn't have that look in his eye this year. I think Oregon's a wagon. I think they'll play for a national championship, and I don't think JMU has a great time on Saturday. To put it simply,
I don't either. We'll see if Miami can have a great time in College Station. Their dogs there. A&M coming off a disappointing finish to the season against Texas. What do you think?
I think that we all kind of gave up on A&M too quickly. You know, as good as Miami is, Hunt, you and I, over the course of this football season, there were like legit conversations being had. Hey, do you like A&M, Indiana, and Ohio State versus the field? It was like, what do you mean? Like, they lose one game in Austin, and Marcel Reed looks bad, and I get all that. But now we want to just talk about A&M being this lackluster team that, you know, is hosting a playoff game, and hopefully they can beat Miami. I think A&M, if we see what I would call like flow state Marcel Reed, where he's setting his feet, he's saying it clearly, he's not doing the whole throw off his back foot and just play like overly instinctual. I think if he can play within this system and play within himself, I think A&M is going to win. I think A&M is going to be in a pretty good spot to cover, depending on where that number is by kick.
What's Miami's path to win if there is one?
I think if they can make it gross, so there definitely is one, to be clear. I think that if they can make it gross and make it feel like a Big Ten game, they should have a pretty good chance. Miami really quietly hunts like the number 2 team in all of college football in time of possession, which I would not have guessed with how they operate. I'm really curious to see how they use Malachi Toney. Not even so much of like, can he be a home run hitter for them and go have this huge day at the office, but if he can extend drives and call it 3rd and 6 plus, and Miami can just possess the football, make Marcel Reed watch this one, that's the game that I think would favor Miami. So the lower scoring this is, like Miami, this game is played in the 30s. I really like A&M.
We briefly touched on it, but let's get beyond the college football playoff and go to Michigan. Where do you think they're thinking right now?
I think they're thinking DeBoer until he says no.
Okay.
From what I understand, they are heavily after DeBoer. From what I understand, they're also willing to wait for DeBoer to a certain extent. I think behind him, Kenny Dillingham is their number 2 choice. With that being said, I think Dillingham's heart is probably in Tempe, Arizona, but I think he wants more resources from them, and I think they're dragging their feet to give it to him. So the longer this thing plays out at Arizona State, the more I'm like, man, I don't know if the failure to shut down the Michigan talk for Kenny Dillingham is something to be read into, but it does give me a similar vibe that we got from Lane Kiffin towards the end of his time at Ole Miss. Not saying that Kenny Dillingham and Lane Kiffin are handling it the same way, but I'm just saying, like, you can say whatever you want, but I've been broken up with enough times, Hunt, to know that if you're not telling me yes, 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 and you're just giving me a non-committal conversation, it's probably going to end up in a way that I don't like it ending up. So to call my shot here, I think Kenny Dillingham's your next head coach at Michigan when it's all said and done.
We shall see. Looking for college football takes coverage. He's got them all. The Hard Count on 3's YouTube channel, wherever you find your podcast. He's with us on Wednesdays. Thanks, JD.
Appreciate you. Have a great one, man.
Sure will. That's JD Pickell with On 3 Sports. Come back. 30 minutes to go. Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Had a great conversation with the crew over at Lifetime Roofing yesterday. Fairly new on the scene. They just formed in 2021. Got that great location there just off the interstate, just off of College in 2023. They're statewide. They're here in Baton Rouge. They're over on the North Shore. They're in New Orleans. They can help you out in Lafayette, over into Houston as well. And I was talking to them, and most people think about a new roof. They think about hurricanes. They think about tornadoes. And sometimes that happens in this part of the world, no question. But sometimes you just want to get a new roof. Maybe it's time to sell your home and you want to get a new roof put on there to add value to your home, make it more attractive, and there's not a hurricane right now. Well, they're happy to help you in the retail market with a new roof. In fact, as of January 1st, they've got a lifetime workmanship warranty that they're going to put into place on a new roof. That could really be something that can help you out when it comes to selling your home. They've got 0% interest up to 18 months. It's an incredible deal and something that not a lot of people know you can look into. So go to the website, lifetimeroofingla.com. Reach out to them. They're happy to put their team around you to help support you. They've got an incredible group of people in our community here in Baton Rouge, in New Orleans. They're over there in Slidell where they've got a location, Lafayette, Lake Charles. They can help you out. They're interwoven into our community here in South Louisiana, and they want to help you out with your roof. It's lifetimeroofingla.com. It's the crew at Lifetime Roofing, lifetimeroofingla.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Second hour, Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, officially working towards the weekend. Last full work week of the year. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. It's been a fast-moving 90 minutes so far. We got about 20 more with you here. I want to kind of talk big picture here about the differences in Lane Kiffin being run out of town on a rail in Oxford and Frank Wilson sticking around to coach the Texas Bowl as the head coach at LSU. I see a lot of people that are posing these questions. And I understand Ole Miss in their position where they feel like they've arrived at the top of college football. And if you're an LSU fan and you laugh at that, that's okay. But I'm telling you that Ole Miss has won 50 games in the last 5 years with Lane Kiffin. They've won the only two teams in the SEC that have won more are Georgia and Alabama. Ole Miss would have made the 12-team playoff in 3 of the last 4 years. They made the playoff this year at 11-1. They tied for the best record in the Southeastern Conference at 7-1. They beat Oklahoma on the road. They beat Georgia like a drum last year. They went to Athens, had a 9-point lead this year. Like, I'm not here to tell you Ole Miss had climbed the mountain, but, like, I'm not here to tell you that an LSU fan should just tell them they're idiots because they suck. Like, yeah, they've never been to Atlanta. I love that. They never won a national championship. I love that since the 50s. And I don't consider Ole Miss among the elite of college football. And I told you when Lane Kiffin left Ole Miss for LSU that I would sell stock in Ole Miss football. Just like I would sell stock in Tennessee baseball. I would have sold stock last year in Texas A&M baseball. I think just hiring the guy next to the guy is wishful thinking. I think you saw that when Mike Martin handed the keys to his son. Now, look, John Shire's doing some good things at Duke, and he was the guy next to the guy at Duke. It can work, but I would sell stock in Ole Miss football from Lane Kiffin to Pete Golding. That doesn't mean I think the bottom will fall out, but I would sell stock. I would not consider the Grove Collective and Keith Carter and Pete Golding to be the machine that are powering this. I think Lane Kiffin had a massive amount to do with the success that Ole Miss had. But I understand their thinking when Lane Kiffin essentially spells out to them in November that he is not coming back, that next year he's going to be at LSU. He strung it along. He wanted to coach the playoff. And finally he said, look, I'm going to be the LSU head coach next year. And at that point, you're running out of town. You can't have him in the building. I get it. He has traded on you. And he's going to a chief rival in an era where you only have 3 permanents on your schedule. And it's actually an annual opponent because it's not permanent. It's 4 years. But LSU is one of Ole Miss's annual opponents. 3 teams you play every year. LSU's one of them. I get not having him in the building anymore. Move on. And I told you when Ole Miss brought all the assistants back that are coming to LSU, George McDonald came back and Charlie Weiss came back, and like a couple of analysts, Joe Cox came back. That was okay, these guys didn't choose to leave us. These guys chose to keep a job. They knew that Lane Kiffin would give them one. They chose to keep it. And oh, by the way, we need somebody to coach the offense. So we're going to back off of our stance of like everyone who goes to LSU is a traitor and just focus this on Lane. This is a Lane thing. That's what it is. And that's what it is. And so if you try to flip that around on LSU and say, well, this guy he's going to Ole Miss. Why are you letting him coach the bowl game? Or you're an LSU fan that says, run him out of town. Well, wait a second. From the time Lane Kiffin told Keith Carter he was going to LSU to the time Ole Miss's season could conceivably end is 7 weeks. You want LSU's coach in your building for 7 weeks? You want LSU's coach in your building during the early signing period? You want LSU's coach in your building while the transfer portal is open? First week of January, if Ole Miss wins a playoff game or two? It's not inconceivable Ole Miss could beat Tulane at home and go beat Georgia in New Orleans. They crushed Georgia last year, and they were winning in Athens by 9 points in the fourth quarter. They could win that game. If they are playing into the transfer portal window. You want your head coach, you want to be LSU's head coach at that point? That's a lot. That's a lot. Frank Wilson has already done his job at LSU with the recruiting class. With the help of Lane Kiffin, I'm confident. And Frank Wilson, from the time he said, I'm leaving to go to Ole Miss, which is theoretically yesterday when he had the team meeting, and the Texas Bowl is 11 days. There's no portal open. There's no early signing period. And he wasn't given an opportunity to stay at LSU at the running backs coach position. So, he's just going to get a job. So this is not the same at all. And I feel comfortable, not confident, but comfortable saying that Frank Wilson will wear his purple and gold from now until the 27th. He will try to win that Texas Bowl with whatever team he's got that shows up. He will keep that staff together for that game, and then they'll all disperse. And he'll go put on his Ole Miss gear, and he'll start calling kids that enter the transfer portal, especially from LSU. That's his job. But I don't think this head coach thing with Lane Kiffin in the playoff and Frank Wilson in the Texas Bowl is the same at all. You're talking about 11 days and compared to 7 weeks. You're talking about that voluntarily left you in the middle of a playoff run versus a guy who was promoted to the interim head coach because they fired a guy. You're talking about a guy who would have been there during the early signing period and potentially the transfer portal open, as opposed to a guy who's just coaching out the string here. I don't think those two things are the same at all. I understand everyone's motivations here, and I also understand that Ole Miss fans are going to be Ole Miss fans, and LSU fans are going to be LSU fans, and rational thought is going to take a back seat at times. There are some things coming out from the LSU media that I kind of roll my eyes at, and there are certainly some things from the Ole Miss media that I roll my eyes out. I'm looking at one of the Ole Miss podcasters who saw a Pete Golding work photograph and said, if this guy handles himself in this program like he has in the last week, Ole Miss is going to be a bigger problem than they are right now. That's just completely delusional thinking based on a photograph taken in a coat and tie holding a helmet. It's just fantasy land. It's just nonsensical. But that happens in Baton Rouge too. And trust me, I'm well aware where my allegiances lay and where my emotion can drift at times. I try my best to play things as objectively as I can with an understanding I can't turn some stuff off. I am what I am. And I don't run from that in any way, shape, or form. This is what it is. But these two things are not the same. And if you want to talk about who's winning the trade, well, LSU got Lane Kiffin and got Charlie Weiss, and, well, Ole Miss got Austin Thomas, and now they've got Frank Wilson, and they're going to, Mincy's tweeting about the New Orleans pipelines open to Oxford, and that's just the way people think. We'll see if Frank Wilson just dials it up and hammers out New Orleans. I have my doubts about that. But these two situations just aren't the same. And I wanted to kind of put my thought behind that as to what we've seen over the last 4 weeks. And it'll all be over third week of January, and everybody will push off the dock where they are and try to be the best they can be. My sincere hope is that Ole Miss falls flat against Tulane and never surfaces again an elite team in the sport, and they're a complete disaster for the next 3 years. Do I think that's going to happen? I think it's a bit of a stretch. My sincere hope is that Lane Kiffin takes over at LSU and does what he did at Ole Miss, but elevates it because LSU's ceiling's higher. That's what I hope. Do I think that's going to happen? I think it's got a good chance to. It's not a guarantee, though. He had things cooking pretty good in Oxford. We'll see. People will retire to their quarters. They'll put on their clothes in their colors, and they'll see things the way they do. But these two things, we don't need to litigate that any further. It's not the same. So that's my thoughts on Lane Kiffin versus Frank Wilson and coaching teams in postseason games when leaving in this short order. We'll come back and close things out with some Take It or Leave It next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Renaissance Homes and Pools. It's chilly outside now. It's a little dismal, rainy outside. It's Christmas time. You're not thinking about being out by the pool, but that time will come pretty quickly. Springtime is close. Make sure that you have that pool of your dreams by the time the weather warms up and it's time to use it. Talk to the folks at Renaissance Homes and Pools now to make that a reality. Joey Blanchard's cell is 225-252-7745. 225-252-7745. Joey's the owner of Renaissance Homes and Pools. For dozens and dozens and dozens of people in the Baton Rouge area, he's put in the pool of their dreams. He can customize it to the exact specifications you want. If you've got a lot of ideas about exactly what you want, he can design that for you. If you have no ideas, you just want a pool, let's talk about it, he's happy to do that as well. And if you want to throw an outdoor kitchen on top of the whole thing, Joey can create that entertainment space you've always wanted in your backyard. Check out their work at builtbyrenaissance.com. Call Joey, 225-252-7745. It's Renaissance Homes and Pools. You can find them online at builtbyrenaissance.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Closing up shop here on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Been a really fast moving 2 hours here. Got to step out, get auto locks posted on LouisianaSports.net, of course, and then I got to get the Myers man to a haircut. His mom just said he's in dire need of a haircut. Christmas photographs coming next week. The bowl cut's out of control. It's down the neck. It's over the ears. It's completely lost contain. So we'll handle that after the show today and then head on home. But still a lot to do on Thursday and Friday of this week. We'll talk to Luke Johnson tomorrow about the Saints and Jets. We'll talk to Chris Blair tomorrow about some LSU basketball as well as LSU football moving towards the Texas Bowl. We will get you ready for the college football playoff as well. And more transfer portal news going to come just as the days go. Today, Colin Hurley and Carius Curran, the two names that have hopped in the transfer portal. I talked about that at the top of the show, and I just don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. It's not just an LSU thing with a new coach. It's a nationwide thing. You're just going to see a lot of folks jump into the transfer portal, and LSU certainly not immune to that. So done a lot over the last 2 hours. Let's finish things up with Take It or Leave It.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Presented to you by Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer, crafted by America's oldest brewery. Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer. And for something cold to drink during the holidays that's light, flavorful, gets the job done. Flight by Yingling, happy to do that for you. It's the oldest brewery in America, still family owned and operated to this day. I love drinking Flight by Yingling. I got a full fridge of Flight by Yingling at home, and it's going to get dipped into this weekend a little bit later on. It's Flight by Yingling, next generation of light beer.
All right, to start everything off with this Take It or Leave It, Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua said on a live stream Tuesday night that he thinks some NFL referees are making calls just to get shown on TV during the games. And I quote, "The refs are the worst," Nacua said. "They want to be on TV too. You don't think he's texting his friends in the group chat like, yo, you guys just saw me on Sunday Night Football? That wasn't a PI, but I called it." Is Puka on to something? Take it or leave it.
I will leave it. That's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in my life. Quite frankly. Like, I think all the referees' friends know that they're referees.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's that's not like
A surprise.
You're at an MLB game and behind home plate and you're texting your buddies like, hey, I'm on TV. Like everyone knows you're a ref if they're friends with you and in a group chat with you. So I don't think that's necessarily. I'm not here to defend all refs and suggest that they're infallible and wonderful and beyond reproach. I just think it's a little ridiculous to suggest that they're just glad to be on TV.
Yeah, no, and I will say this. Puka just cost himself a lot of money with that one, so hopefully it was worth it because, they're going to fine him for saying that. All right, so next, the New York Knicks, though they won the NBA in-season tournament, I guess.
Heard about that. I would have never known other than I just saw it on my Twitter today.
So, yeah, they won that last night.
Awesome.
And so they've decided against hanging the banner in Madison Square Garden for winning the NBA Cup. The past two winners, the Los Angeles Lakers and Milwaukee Bucks, have their banners hung up in their arenas.
A disgrace.
Yeah, the Knicks haven't hung up a banner since winning the Eastern Conference in 1999. So do the Knicks players have a point? Take it or leave it.
I mean, what do they want? Do they want to hang the banner?
No, they don't want to
yeah,
hang the banner up.
Take it all day. That is. I'm irrationally upset about the in-season NBA Cup. I think it is the stupidest thing that I've ever seen a professional sport do.
It's weird.
I don't know the rules. I don't know where they play. It's ridiculous. They paint the court dumb. Like keep in mind, I use the adjective irrational because it doesn't make any sense that it upsets me the way that it does. But no other professional sport, maybe soccer does this, but I don't care about that.
Soccer,
says, hey, none of these games really matter that much, but we're gonna give a trophy if you win some of these. So give me a break. There's a trophy at the end. That's what everyone's playing for.
Yeah.
Do you care about it?
I would have cared that one year when the Pelicans were in if they would have won. Yes.
You would have cared if they won the NBA Cup.
It's the Pelicans. They haven't won anything. So yeah,
I know.
I would have been happy.
Would you rather win? Okay, here's the deal.
Would you rather the Pelicans? Keep this in mind.
Yes, the Pelicans.
Okay.
You have two options.
Yeah.
You can win the NBA Cup.
Okay.
Get the 7 seed in the playoffs and get swept in the first round, or you can get the 3 seed, win a round, and then lose the next round in 7 in the playoffs.
You got to take that win in the playoffs, man. You got to take that.
So you want the extra playoff win and not the NBA Cup.
Yeah.
Okay. So the playoffs are the only thing that really
matters. The NBA Cup is just, I'm talking as a Pelicans fan now. I get it as the Lakers and the Milwaukee Bucks, which is weird that they have theirs hung up, especially the Lakers, because they got 1 million championships. So that's a little weird that they have their in-season tournament stuff hung up. But again, the Pelicans, you look up in the rafters, what you got up there? Pete Maravich, so you ain't got much up there.
It would be like if I walked into the PMAC and LSU hung a banner. We won the Destin Invitational in Thanksgiving. We beat Drake and DePaul. Hang the banner in November. No, that's not. Nobody plays for that. It feels to me like the commissioner of the NBA is trying to trick me into thinking something exists that doesn't really exist.
Yeah, it's just to get eyes on it. It's just to get eyes on, So, let's finish this off with this one. So, Bleacher Report has dropped grades for first-year head coaches in the NFL.
Okay.
And Kellen Moore has been graded at a C. And this is what they said at the end. After a very slow start, the Saints are progressing well under Moore. If Shuck continues to grow, New Orleans could be back in the race for a division title in 2026. For now, a rebuilding year with promising flashes as of late has graded Moore as a C. So, do you agree with Moore's grade as a C so far in the season? Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. I think that's completely fair. I think he's been dealt a bad hand.
Yeah.
I think he made some real mistakes early.
He's got to grow.
I think that he's done a better job of late. Mm-hmm. I think that the defensive coordinator he hired is doing a really good job.
Staley, yes.
I need, in the last 3 weeks, I need more W's, and I need more offense. He's the offensive guy. He's got his quarterback in place now. You're playing some defenses that aren't that good. I need more offense. And that's what we talked about in our Saints segment today. And that can rise up to a B pretty quickly if I can average 24, 26 points over the last 3 games and win 2 of them. Okay, that would raise it up to a B. It's not an A. There have been issues, but yeah, it's the next couple of weeks are huge for him, and I need his side of the ball to progress.
Yes, and I think that is fair. Like you said, a C is right there. You have potential to go up. I don't think you can go any further than maybe a C minus because they did like A minus, A plus. So I can see maybe a C minus. But other than that, I agree with you. That's it for Take It or Leave It.
All right. Wednesday shows brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Check them out online, builtbyrenaissance.com. Builtbyrenaissance.com. Open the show today talking about Carius Curran and Colin Hurley going into the transfer portal. Also talked about Frank Wilson leaving for Ole Miss. Does that open the door for Kevin Smith to come to Baton Rouge? You can find all that at Hunt on LSU, wherever you find your podcast, or on YouTube. Talked a little Saints at the end of hour number 1 as well. Then there are 5 guys I think LSU needs to really try to get back on the roster next year. You can find that at Hunt on LSU as well. Thanks to JD Pickell for joining us. That'll do it for us. Matt's going to drive you home next on AFR. We're back tomorrow with a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Marucci's such a gem here in Baton Rouge. Started just by a couple former big leaguers and a trainer. Started making some bats. All of a sudden, 2004, 2008, 2010, 2015, all of a sudden, you look back, and Marucci is now the official bat of Major League Baseball. That's such a cool thing for us to have here in Baton Rouge. And not only can you go and see them make these 1,400 bats per day and see the craftsmanship and the expertise that goes into making the bats that the pros use, you can also go by and tour their campus. You can go by and take some swings in the batting cage. You can go by and stock up on Christmas gifts for the youth baseball or softball player in your life, because we know that baseball and softball are right around the corner. Marucci is so awesome. Go check him out online at maruccisports.com/campus-tour. Marucci, true gem here in Baton Rouge. It's Marucci.